and duly warned.
Very intimidating.
That was very intimidating. Don't read the fine print. It's very scary.
Yeah, no.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Leah couldn't be here tonight, so we once again have Liz joining us as co-host. Hey, Liz.
Hey, Kyle. Hey, everybody.
I'm so excited to have you here. I'm excited for our guest. I'm excited to have you here. There's so much going on.
So good.
I know. How is your well, actually, one of the things we're going to be talking about tonight, which I'm really excited about, is our new kind of reimagined or refined, vision, mission, values statement. And a lot of what's in there was actually inspired by something you said. You may not know this. I think you know this, but we had a meeting with you, and you were talking about your journey when you joined the salon, and you talked about this journey that you went through of sort of how you learned and how you got up to speed, that it was, completely overwhelming at first. And that was really inspiring. Do you want to share at all anything about that? Because I thought that was super cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I learned about the AI Salon from Leah, who, of course, as you all know, is a photographer, and my background is as an art producer, so I work with photographers, and I was obsessed, as many people here are, with the topic of AI, but very overwhelmed about learning. And I started watching the recorded salons, and I was digesting everything that you guys were putting out. And it was incredibly helpful in my learning journey. Is that what you were referring to? Yeah. Yeah,
because I just like what was inspiring about it was you said, you came to a meeting, and then you went to our YouTube, and you just watched a bunch of meetings, and you were just sort of osmosising things in, and then starting to play and starting to,
that's right,
figure it out. So, and that kind of led us, it's funny as these sort of ideas come together, but we had been sort of talking around this for a while, and Leah had mentioned something about a journey, and then you shared that, and it was like, oh, it was this really clear journey. And so a lot of what we're looking to do with the salon now is to really figure out how do we sort of figure out where someone is on that journey and give them places to, take a step up, but then, if they're farther along in the journey, they've got places to do that too. So that I'm really excited about.
Well, and the ethos of the play first, which was incredibly, it was relieving, because when you can immerse and play without an attachment to an outcome, then it really feels like the learning happens much more naturally.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the intimidating things about AI is because historically you've had to have a math degree and be a scientist to do it. That I think there's this expectation that you have to be a mathematician or a scientist, and you don't. You can just come in and start playing. And I think that spirit is we're realizing that's one of the magical things about this group.
So much. I think that anybody who engages with this and who is not an official technologist may sort of walk through this gauntlet of feeling like an imposter.
Mm-hmm.
And that feeling that you can just engage, and that there's a community that is supportive to that end is really helpful.
Yeah, exactly. And so what I'd like to do tonight is just share. We just put up the brand new revised vision, mission, and values statement. And so Liz and I are going to walk you through what it is, and I'll read it like we normally do. But this is all brand new stuff. So if you're new here. The salon's been around since the week after ChatGPT came out, which was November 2022. It's been a year and a half. I can't believe it's been a year and a half. So let me share my screen.
It's like before and after Jesus.
Yeah, so this idea of play first, we're really leaning into that. The AI Salon play first. That when you join the community and enter it, you play first, and don't take it too seriously. As you're learning, there's so much to learn. It's so overwhelming. It's changing so fast. And so we've got this new sort of core journey of play first, mindfully create, and generously lead. This image was created by Serena. So thank you, Serena, for doing this. I had to do a lot of generative extend and photoshopping on this to get it right, because it was, the first thing was in the wrong order. And, you know, then when you start photoshopping, man, you realize how awful photoshopping was when you just generatively fill stuff. So anyway, so let's jump over to the website. And all right. So AI Salon, play first. So here's the new vision statement. We're a talented group of misfits, change makers, and those brave enough to face the terrifying uncertainty and exciting inevitability of generative AI head on. We gather to support and inspire one another, to step into the unknown together. On this journey, we play first, mindfully create, and generously lead to rediscover ourselves and reinvent the work we do. If we succeed on our journey, we just may bend the arc of humanity ever so slightly toward the light. So little tongue in cheek there with, you know, bending the arc of humanity. But I actually believe that. I actually believe that, you know, a group of people sort of with positive intention using these tools actually are going to make a huge difference. And so I think we can do that. So that's the new vision statement. Thoughts? Digging it? I can't see anyone.
Did we cut ne'er-do-wells? Because I can't stay.
We did. We might. We are taking. We're going to have a form that you can fill out to return ne'er-do-wells to the statement. So there was a Gen X millennial battle over ne'er-do-wells. So I think we might have to return ne'er-do-wells.
I needed to attend.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. You should have been there. I think you would have been the tie vote. But yeah, so we can I think ne'er-do-wells.
But I did not mean to distract from
it's
the
important.
improvement here. I am down with it. It's really good.
Yeah, great.
But I miss ne'er-do-well.
All right. And then the mission. So what does this mean? This idea of play first, mindfully create, and generously lead. What that really is the journey to AI literacy. And this is, or the Salon version of the journey to AI literacy. This is probably the single question that I get asked the most is just, you know, how do I get AI literate? Or even what is AI literacy? Like, people just don't know what it is. They don't know how to get there. And so we really feel that this journey is it. And so it kind of looks like this. At the AI Salon, we play first, joyfully exploring generative AI, gaining the knowledge and inspiration to mindfully create, surprising ourselves and powerfully meeting challenges, unleashing us to generously lead, enriching lives, redefining what's possible, and unlocking a new era of human achievement. So that for me is that, you know, just this idea of, rather than, as Liz said, sort of taking it so seriously and getting yourself locked in, like you have to learn this thing and you know, you have to just make your work more efficient, you know, play first. And, you know, play in areas where you might not have otherwise played. You know, if you're a project manager, go make art and make music and just play with all these tools. And in doing that, you can start to feel the edges of what this stuff is. And then you gain enough mastery of the tools to be able to say, oh, I can actually mindfully create something. I can put together an art project, or I can solve a problem, or I can help someone, you know, with their marketing plan for their small business. And then in doing that, you know, you can move into this step where you can generously lead. So as you're learning these tools, sharing with other people and things like that. So really excited about that. And the whole idea, we're really looking at the Salon as this journey. And this journey is kind of a fractal where there's sort of a meta arc of play first, mindfully create, and generously lead. And then I think there's little micro versions of it. Like you can do this little cycle within a single tool or within a single project, you know, or within a guild or things like that. And I think we're constantly, all of us are going to, you know, keep cycling through this journey. And in doing that, collectively, this group is going to get incredibly powerful, and I'm super excited about that. So we're gonna architect the salon experience to live up to this journey. Yeah, someone have a thought, question? Cool. All right, Liz, you want to take us through our new values? So the values, just so you know, there's 2 new values, and we've reduced it down to 5. So there's some values missing, but just know all of the values were captured in the ones that we're going to go through right now. It was just some of them were slightly overlappy, and so we just wanted to get to the essence of what the community's about. So Liz, take it away.
You got it. I'm delighted to take you through the values because I love them. All right. Curiosity. What we value, curiosity. We're eager to ask the obvious questions, learn new things, and experiment, experiment, experiment. Our relentless quest for adventure and exploration ignites our inner spark, transforming our curiosity into unexpected discoveries and newfound passions. Playfulness. We value creativity, joy, and the freedom to experiment. We play first and transform learning into a captivating journey. We collaborate and mindfully create together when we can to learn more, to make friends, and develop new circles of trust. Remember, all work and no play is how we did things before the AI Salon. Empathy. We're respectful, inclusive, and kind. We value diverse perspectives, recognizing that our differences make us stronger. We accept that people might be afraid and angry, and we work to understand them. We actively practice gratitude, and we acknowledge the efforts and successes of those around us. Humans matter. Bravery. We have the courage to step into the unknown, taking bold actions in the face of fear, and challenging ourselves to push the boundaries of what we thought possible. Let's face it, with everything changing as fast as it is, we're all making this up as we go along anyway. Might as well be brave about it. Suck it up, Buttercup. Generosity. We're willing to share our resources, feedback, and wisdom with others and support each other's growth and development. There's so much happening and so much to learn. We can't possibly keep up with it all. Understand that even if something is obvious to you, it might be a profound revelation to someone else. Learn out loud. Share what you know, generously lead.
Swell, isn't it?
It is swell.
Let me check in with everyone. I'm just curious what everyone's thought is. I know we're getting some applauses and hearts. Any thoughts, Corey?
I just want to say, of all of that, for so much of that is amazing, but what has stuck in my head is humans matter. And I think it's really important in this group that we have that continues to grow is to remind the people that come in. So I was new at one point, you know, and I think it's really, I know how I feel when I come into a new group that I think it's all established, everybody's here, I'm always going to be an outsider, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to make really clear that humans matter here, that this isn't about saying AI is the bomb and everything else is now gone. Like, this is about how do we, like you say, Kyle, like, we can't go back now. We can't put it back in the box.
Right. Yep.
So here we are, but we don't want to lose us in that process. And I think the fact that you've outlined that, everybody who was involved in writing it is the bomb, is great. I thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And I think the idea of play first is also, there's a humanness about that, right? Discover the joy in it first. And then all the work shit can come later, right? You know, all the efficiency and all the robots. So thank you. Other thoughts? Thank you. Anyone? You don't have to have thoughts. Yeah. Liz.
I'm struck that this kind of feels like an ongoing meditation on what is the human piece to all of this? This is this conversation happens every meeting, and I think it's really interesting, and it's always evolving, right? It's like we're riding this wave of what is the human piece to the value that we
Where's the boundary? And Carla, our speaker tonight, right? That's like all of what she's going to talk about is about this boundary. And yeah, so
exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Crazy. Rick.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fears right now. This is moving quicker than any other technology in history.
Yeah.
I mean, 20 years we had to get used to the internet, 150 for industrial revolution. This is happening in 1 year.
Exactly.
And
we might have 3.
Yeah, if you've been in it for a while, but you know, for most people, even they haven't gotten there to even understand what it is. So I think this is fantastic that instead of generating fear, you're embracing the curiosity and the play and the fun of it, because it is really fun. Even for artists, I think especially, or those that are fearing they're going to lose their job, they're going to have no value. Like, how do we add value to a situation like that? And I think you're exactly right. We're adding our own humanity, and that's what art is.
Yep.
It's a reflection, and it's something I cannot not do. And only people care about that. So AI is no interest in creating art or solving cancer, but humans really do. And so we're doing it for each other.
Yeah.
We're creating experiences for each other. And I think this is a great experience world that you all are building here. And I really champion that and praise you for doing so. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I would say we all
yes,
include yourself in that. Okay, great. So let me share my screen again. I want to share some exciting news. So as you know, Leah and I, we're sort of the core decision makers of the salon, and then we brought Bradley on as part of that core to help with some of our growth strategy, and what does the salon want to be when it grows up? And I'm excited to announce that we've got 2 new directors, and I didn't let either of you know that I was going to be announcing this tonight, but that's okay. We love you. So Vicky Baptiste, I'd love a lovely golf clap for Vicky Baptiste has stepped up and accepted a role as our new community director, and is going to be helping us with strategy and just making sure that the community is supported and volunteers, know where to go, and we figure out all the sort of boundaries and rules and things like that. She's been amazing at it already. So let's welcome Vicky into that role. And then my co-host tonight, Liz Miller-Gershfeld, has stepped up and is taking on the role of Director of Content Strategy. So she's going to help us figure out, how we take, these events and other kinds of content that's being created and figure out how does that become an essential tool for getting the word for what the salon's all about out there, to get more people excited about this stuff and join the community. So I just want to congratulate everyone about that.
Woo!
Yeah, I can't see anyone, so I don't know what's happening. I assume there's lots of little claps and waves and things like that. So, welcome to you both. Really excited to have you here. Yeah. So, and as things come up, things may slightly change. So just know that you've got more than just Leah and I and Brad to go to now. So if you have ideas or thoughts, you've got those folks, and then as they put together their organizations, they'll figure out structures and volunteers and all sorts of things like that. Okay, so yes, someone has their hand raised. Someone did have their hand raised. Did they have their hand raised? No. Okay.
It was Catherine.
Oh, hey, Catherine.
That's who had a hand raised.
Yes, thank you so much for everybody to make this possible. I really believe we can together make a difference in the world. I think all of us wanted to change the world at some point when we were in college or whatever, but it wasn't possible. But we thought, I don't know, I think me and my friends, we wanted that. And now, as a group with AI, there's actually possibilities, realities that we could achieve. So I'm very grateful for everybody here. This is like my new religion. Because for me, it's sacred. Thank you very much.
That's so sweet. Awesome. That's great. Okay, let's do guild updates. So who's running a guild? Who's got something to share of the guilds? If you don't know the guilds, if you're new here, I don't need to share my screen for this. If you're new here, guilds are little sub communities within the salon. We've got a creative area, a tech area, a business area, and an ethics, social good area. So let's talk about what's going on within the guilds. Jane Endicott, what's happening?
Hey, Kyle. Hey, everybody. I don't really have any updates. It's kind of just business as usual, but I just wanted to talk about the Writers Guild for anybody who may be new. I really liked what we just talked about as far as, what the human aspect of using AI. That is really the focus of the Writers Circle. It's writers first, AI enthusiasts second. AI is an exciting tool, a very useful tool, a very creative tool, but it all is also just a tool. And how do we kind of weave our own human experiences and creativity into how we use these tools and create things. So we meet regularly. We would have a meeting this week, but I'm actually going to won't be able to make it. So just check the events feed for the next one. And we really just get together and kind of talk about all the different ways that we're using it. And hope to see some new faces there.
Great. Awesome. Vicky.
We had the first meeting of the Ethics Guild last night. We finally got around to it. It's definitely going to be a monthly thing. Like I have the next 4 or 5 months planned out, plus some extras as well. And a lot of it is like, I can't say it's like the first Monday of the month kind of thing, because I have a co-host, Joy, who I don't think is here right now. Her engine blew up last night. And no. She was late to the meeting, and I'm thinking, where's Joy? And got the notice that her car engine had blown up. So I hope she's still doing well today. So some meetings might be on Mondays, some might be on Wednesdays. It kind of depends on Joy's schedule, because there are 2 of us. It was a really great meeting. We had Dr. Tony Rem talking about the basics of ethics and bias in AI. I had planned for an hour. We went for an hour and a half. So we're just going to get trying to work out how long I need to make the meetings for. So that might be the new meeting time is an hour and a half. And the next meeting is July 1st, and it is on accessibility and AI and accessibility. So watch out for the event posting in the salon. Very
cool. Yeah, accessibility is one of those things that I'm most excited about. It's like every time, I'll see something someone talking to, Pi or something like that, or doing translation. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then you hear it completely transformed someone's life. And you're like, oh, crap, right. The level of accessibility that's about to roll out to the world is just bonkers.
I should mention also the recording is in the salon too.
Okay. Fantastic. Thanks, Vicky. Bradley.
Hello, everybody. So I'm Brad. I lead the AI for Business Guild, and as most of you who are regular attenders might have seen in the message board, we took a slight pause for the month of June. There's some things behind the scenes kind of going on, but also we are reformatting the meeting structure. So one meeting during a month, we will be discussing challenges as a group. This is kind of very similar to how we kind of do things now, but it would be a little bit more structured into a specific challenge. So almost treating it as a self-user interview kind of process, where we're just kind of really understanding the challenges, the pain points with a common workflow or business objective that we all have as solopreneurs, as people working inside businesses. And the idea is that's going to be the first step in a 2-part process, where the second meeting in a month is where we'll actually ideate solutions and identify how we can integrate AI into that challenge and find ways to make things better for ourselves, improve, lead generation, all kinds of different categories that businesses face on a day-to-day basis. But through this process, we'll, first define the challenge through understanding it as a group. And then as a follow-up, we'll design or really ideate on a solution. We might not build anything, but we're going to prepare everybody to build something as we kind of go our separate waves and build things that are specific to our individual needs in business, but kind of collaborate together on possible ideas and solutions. So that is what's going on. We will kick things back off the second week of July, which will be after the 4th of July period. I don't have my calendar up and I can't remember the exact date, but it'll be the Thursday after the 4th of July. It might be a 5:30 instead of a 5 o'clock time frame, but to be determined. In the next couple of weeks, we'll send out a new event meeting.
Awesome. Great. I think it's also important to note that Bradley is nearly as good looking as his AI avatar here, since he doesn't have his camera on. Just, want to make that disclaimer that
nearly.
He's just so close. So close.
I'm in the process of packing because I leave for Bangkok tomorrow. So I am not camera ready. So sorry for that. But yes, I feel like that is a fairly good representation of myself.
Yeah,
so.
Actually, so Bradley, you want to just do like a minute or two? Just you're heading to Bangkok. You're doing the sort of expat remote work thing there, yeah?
Yeah, so part of the reason there's a slight pause in the June scheduling is that I will be severely jet lagged as I head over to Bangkok, and the idea is that I'll be there between 2 to 6 months. But doing the digital nomad thing, it kind of leans into where I'm focusing my attention and audience growth is really the solopreneurs, the people who are kind of going to need to be self-sufficient in business, but also on the freelancer and contractor community, which is where the digital nomad stuff comes into play. And hey, why not have fun at the same time?
Yeah.
So
no, it's great. It's like sharing that experience, as you run the guild, I think is like there's so much gold to be gleaned there. So I'm really excited about that. So awesome. Thank you. CJ Fletcher.
Hi, everybody. While definitely not as handsome as Bradley, I hope my speech is going to be as captivating. I am one of the community curators of the Vanguard. You may have seen it there in the AI Salon left-hand side when you look at all the categories. If you are an image maker and you've been making images for a while and you want to step up your image making, the Vanguard is for you. It's a place where we have critical thinking, really heavy discussions, and it is an application process to get in, just to let you know. But if you'd like to join us as the community, be a community curator and come on in and step up your image making game, feel free to message any one of us that's in the Vanguard and one of us will get back to you, okay? So that's all I have to say. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye. I also, CJ's, do you mind if I share your 5-year goal?
No, not at all. Be my guest.
CJ's 5-year goal is to get his AI artwork or his artwork. We don't even have to qualify it as AI artwork, to get his artwork into MoMA. And I love that as a 5-year goal. And I hope you get there, man. I'm pulling for you every day. I think it's such a cool goal. Groovy. So Liz, I want to jump into news here for a second. But when we were talking about, we're talking about what news we were going to cover tonight. You sort of shared kind of where you were with things, and news you thought was interesting. So let's just sort of tee up the conversation for some of the news stuff about what we were talking about, and
Sure.
Where are you with all of what's going on for the past?
Well,
couple
okay,
of weeks?
so let's raise an umbrella. So recently, you posted about being inspired, which really inspired me, about just the simple shift that referring to AI as CI made in the way you think about things. And that was really inspiring to me. It's like when we think about it and talk about it, I wonder how might that change our experience and the way we're thinking about all of that, right? So CI instead of artificial intelligence being collective intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah. And what hit me, it was one of those things, and I'm sure CI has sort of a long legacy and a meaning that is not how I necessarily took it, but it was just a tweet that I saw that I think was inspired by an Ezra Klein podcast where he talked about collective intelligence. And the tweet simply said, AI is the collective intelligence of humanity. And it just smacked me in the face of like, that's the articulation of what I've been sort of talking about for like 9 months. And I couldn't quite figure out what it was, that when you interact with AI, we call them bots and we call it artificial intelligence. But the response you get back, just it feels something different. And it doesn't feel like a machine, even though it's a probability calculator. It doesn't feel like that. Right. And the minute I saw collective intelligence, I'm like, that's why. Because it's the collective intelligence of what it's been trained on that is the thing that's being reflected back to us.
The Greek chorus.
Yeah, the Greek chorus. And then we get to contribute, like, us, interacting with it, we're collaborating with that collective intelligence. And all of a sudden it all just sort of made sense to me. And I'm like, there's a term there. And then that's happening concurrently where I've now got 3 different digital avatars, and Carla's going to be talking about that tonight. And like, I'm just seeing this theme of how do we represent ourselves in this new world? And sometimes we'll represent ourselves and sometimes we're going to be represented. And so anyway, so a lot of the news items cover that, but anyway, I thought that was really good. Corey has her hand raised.
Has anybody else considered, as we move forward and the learning includes yesterday and then today and then tomorrow as we progress, and it includes what is being made, manufactured, co-created, generated, all of that stuff, because it's different than what the box is filled with that started in the box, right? Yep. Now the box is going to become a duffel bag, and it's not going to just be not necessarily that everything on the internet was the fact and the truth before, but now it is different. It's going to be different. I've never really spoke into that, but it's something that, like, in a year's time, that duffel bag, we kind of have to really be very mindful about what's being created by whichever AI it is that we're using. Mm-hmm. That is it going to be a truthful response to something that we're asking it? Or, I don't have the words. My brain isn't nearly big enough today, or any day probably. But I know that there's something that's rattling in there about that.
I have no answer for it. I saw a tweet yesterday that someone said, unlike the Matrix, where the AI is using us for energy, what it's likely going to more look like is that the AI is going to use us for our contributions, for our data, for our prompts. So what we contribute to it is that the AI is going to recognize that there's the value of humans is what they contribute to the data set. I thought that was really kind of brilliant, that if the AI is smart enough to recognize humans being human is the value. And if that's the case, then I find it very hopeful.
Yes, until they get all the data they need.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Yeah, exactly. Eric.
I had 2 thoughts. The first is, people often say that AI has been trained on, everything that's ever been written by anybody. And have you read what people write? Like, first of all, they make up crazy crap, and then it's like half it's offensive, and it's like, oh, geez, great, now it's been trained by something written in the 1830s. That's one thing. But Ethan Mollick posted about this maybe a month or 2 ago, that it's already polluted. The internet now is full of AI-generated stuff. And an example he used was scientific research papers.
Yeah.
Which so academia is very fussy about, things being proper. And he just did a simple statistic analysis of how often the word delve comes up.
Exactly.
Because AI loves saying, let's delve into that.
Exactly.
And there's a chart from going back to like 1995 to 2022 which is basically a flat line. Nobody says delve. And all of a sudden in 2022, it's like here, and now it's like off the chart kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
interesting.
Yeah, crazy times. Well, let me jump in. I want to get to Carla. So let me just share some news items, because I think some of these are in the neighborhood of, I think, things to pay attention to as part of this conversation. Okay. First one, if you didn't know it, today, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, and Claude all were down at the same time for about an hour.
Why?
And then so we don't know. So I predicted, I made 3 TikTok videos today on this. The first one was, I think we're getting new toys. And then it turned out, no, ChatGPT was actually down. But then Perplexity was down, and I got a couple of notes that Gemini and Claude were also down. The prevailing theory is that OpenAI was doing some work on their servers. It took long, like overnight, like 2 a.m, and then America wakes up, and ChatGPT was down, and apparently people just flooded to their choice number 2, and it took them all down because they got 100 million weekly users. So you got 100 million people that can't use ChatGPT. They just go to the other things, and it took down those other servers. So I think that's what it was, but who knows? There was a coincidence where there was a letter from existing and previous OpenAI employees today, right around the time of this, saying that they wanted to be able to talk openly about AI safety in these organizations. And so it could have been a DDoS attack, could have just been the servers were down and it choked all the other ones. But that was weird this morning to have all of them down at the same time for like an hour was very odd. Okay. If you haven't seen it, 11 Labs launched text to sound effects, which is kind of cool. So if I do dragster, screeching off the line, generate sound effects, it just does it now. And if you've been on X, there's a lot of people are playing with this, but pretty quick. And well, that wasn't as good as it. Could you hear that at all?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Drag race car screeching its tires. I did test this earlier and it worked good, but I obviously didn't have the right prompt in there. That just sounded like garbage. There you go. So anyway, that's out now, which is kind of cool. Microsoft announced this new, what are they called? Frontier model for weather data. And the amazing thing about this, so I didn't know this about weather. And NOAA, which actually is based in Boulder, here in Colorado, they've got a major center here. To do weather predicting, it takes so much compute power that there's very few facilities in the world that can actually do it. NOAA is one of them. So most of your weather predictions, they're actually getting that computation from a single source. This model is more accurate than computational weather forecasting, and it's 5,000 times faster. So I think the implications of this are that you're going to be able to much smaller organizations and much smaller data centers are going to be able to do very accurate weather predicting and not have to rely on a single source, which I thought just again this points to this remarkable time in history that we're in, is if you just point different data at these transformer models, they can learn lots and lots of different things. So now it knows weather. this is another story that if we're talking about, humans matter and authenticity and what's our role and things like that, there's an organization in Switzerland that has successfully generated what they're calling brain organoids. They start with human stem cells and turn them into neurons, basically little clusters of neurons. They're calling them brain organoids, I suppose, because they want the world to sound like a horrible sci-fi movie. but anyway, but they now have a chip that they can put 16 of these organoids onto, and they can actually do, neural network computing using these brain organoids. So the whole question, I was very clear on sentience before where, if it's just a probability engine, it's not sentient. We may perceive it as sentience, but now that we're actually putting, human neurons on a chip and interacting with it in this hybrid kind of a way, I think, back to the ethics guild,
Oh my gosh.
Crazy stuff. And these chips are available for people to test now. Their biggest challenge right now is these things. I think they only last for about 10 days because they starve. They don't have circulatory systems. So they have to sort of bathe them in an oxygen-rich environment. But anyway, crazy stuff is coming. So continued. Perplexity released a new thing called Pages, which, hang on a second, let me let someone in. Let me make sure no one's waiting. Okay, cool. Perplexity launched these things called Pages. You can see my screen, right? I did share, right?
Right now we see the weather.
Okay, the weather thing. Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay, great. So pages are just like articles, right? So like I did one on Jackson Pollock. This was like the first one I did. So it's like a Medium article, right? Except how you make it is kind of nuts. So you just say, someone give me a topic.
Organoids.
Okay. Ethics of brain organoids on chips.
They really need to rename that.
They really do. Organdies.
I don't know, but I think that makes the possibility that this is a simulation more possible.
Yeah, well, exactly. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? So what this is doing is, so it rewrote the title, Ethical Considerations for Brain on Chip Organoids. So it fixed my typo, writes a little intro, and then it writes these sections. Then it researches each of these sections. And so within this, you've got citations for the articles that make up this article. And then for every one of these, it's sort of writing its little thing. And as soon as it gets done here, hang on, I think someone else just joined. Let me let Patty in. So it's writing this very well research. What this effectively is automated research, but formatted in media format. And so I can go in and I can, it selected that image for me, but there's other images. So, I could generate an image. I could say, I want a photograph. Let's see. Is it making something? Yeah, there you go. Okay, that's creepy. That's not what brain organoids look like. That's okay. For any one of these, I can add media to it. I can add other sections. It suggests other sections like regulatory frameworks. For any one of these little sections, I can edit it and say, you know what? What's the section? Consent procedures. I'd like that to be a table rather than a paragraph, because I think tables are easier to read. So you can do tables, bulleted lists, or paragraphs. And it just does this. And then in the upper right-hand corner, as soon as that finishes doing its thing, I can now publish this. And so link is copied, page is published. So that is now, in my library of pages. I now have, ethical considerations for brain on a chip. One fascinating thing they did here, it's not written by Kyle Shannon, it's curated by Kyle Shannon. This to me feels significant. Like we're moving to this place where as humans, we're going to think of ideas and we're going to curate all this information or all this output and share that with other people. But I don't know. I found this one quite interesting. Okay, one more thing.
How can it work from previously queries?
I don't know. I've only played with it a little bit. So, and I don't use Perplexity enough to, like, I don't have a big library in Perplexity like I do in ChatGPT. So I don't know. But good question. I would say go find it out. It's super intuitive to use. Yeah,
I use it every day for research.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, and I mean, this could be a really interesting way to present research, right? Very, very quickly present research in a digestible kind of article format. So yeah, possibly, definitely worth exploring.
Publishing a book even if you wanted to. The page layout was right.
Yep, exactly. Someone else had their hand raised.
Corey?
Okay.
Corey?
So yeah. So my question is, in a short time, is there going to be any new information out, or are we all going to just be regurgitating what is currently out there, and that's just going to get into a blender and get blended up again, and put into a blender and get blended up again? Like, are people going to continue to do new research, to do new writing that isn't based on, okay, Perplexity, put together this information for me based on this sentence that I have?
I don't know. I mean, you could argue that the way humans currently do stuff is a blender of shit they've learned. So I don't know the answer to that. Who's Serena?
I think that there's going to be a lot new, because I think that we are going to have not only forums like this to help with creativity, but I honestly believe we're going to have time to be more creative and thoughtful, and those creative juices are going to flow. And I think there's going to be, I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say it's going to be exponentially more.
Yeah.
I really believe that. I don't think it's going to be a blend and repeat of what's already there. I think there's going to be a lot of new everything.
What's hard though is what can't expand exponentially is human attention, right? And that's the thing. Like, how do you compete in a world of infinite content generation is fascinating. Tom.
Overrated, Kyle.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I can't speak for other industries, but as a scientist and around, I mean, I'm an animal behaviorist myself, but I have cancer researchers that are working with fungi, exploring the possibilities there. So I guess I'd say science is going to keep cranking out original research. It's basically our mandate to try to maintain some level of originality. I mean, we chase down these rabbit holes, but new scientists, almost by definition, have to do some original research. So that's new information. But I think Corey poses a wonderful question. I was wondering that when you first put that information out there about pages is, oh gosh, we're just going to, our students are just going to keep regurgitating the same material over and over again. But then I got thinking, no, I don't think so. And we're, as faculty at least, I hope we're smart enough not to let the AI grade our papers completely, and we'll look for some of that regurgitation and hopefully correct it when it comes along.
Flipping wild. Let's do one more. Cindy, we'll bring you in, and then we'll shift it over to our speaker.
Just super quick to add from Tom's space, as a social scientist and researcher, I'm all about Perplexity and I really love it, but you still have to be paid as a researcher. There is nothing Perplexity could do for someone who's not trained in research to really start cooking money. I mean, bless your hearts for the Medium articles and the LinkedIn we can all do. But the truth is, the way to think of these tools is not that it's taking away from any of us. As a researcher, I am unafraid because you need me. You need this. What's special about us, just to keep in mind, two things. These are tools. They're always tools. You plug them in, you plug them out. They're tools. The other thing that I'm never worried about our future in research and science, because what's special about what happens in labs is you might know about this and you might know about this, but our brains go, ooh, what happens when that goes together?
Yeah.
That's why we're special in creativity. It's why we're special in science. And it's why I'm not worried. And the humans will be just fine because we have special things up here that we see connections that are more than just what word comes next.
Love it. All right. Okay, there's one other thing you should check out. I'm not going to go into it because it'll start a whole nother conversation, but you should check out Showrunner. So Showrunner, just go to Twitter and look up Showrunner and look for this video or this guy Nathan Lands. And what it does is it generates TV shows. But how it does it is they create simulated worlds. So they've created Sim San Francisco and they put characters in it. And then the shows are generated from the interactions that those characters have in that simulated world. So they're positioning this as a TV show generator, but you're going to actually be able to upload a version of yourself into Sim San Francisco and make your own show about you and your friends. So I think it's actually really significant, but it's not out yet. So we don't have to worry about it now, but go check it out because I think it's really, really interesting. So with that, Liz, would you please be so kind to introduce our guest speaker for the night?
Yes. So everybody, quiet your microphones and prepare. Carla Gannis is an incredibly inspiring artist who I am pinching myself to be able to introduce tonight. Known for using absurdity and humor as tools for exploring complex issues. And she's self-described as a maximalist, which I think you're going to understand. Gannis is an interdisciplinary artist, creative technologist, and professor at NYU's Tandon School of Engineering. She's in the Department of Technology, Culture, and Society in their integrated digital media program. Based in Brooklyn, New York, Gannis produces virtual and physical works that are darkly comical. In a career that spanned 28 years working with an array of mediums and tools, including drawing, painting, video, interactivity, extended reality, and machine learning models. Early. She's not new to the game. Gannis's work has been exhibited globally in exhibitions, screenings, and internet projects, and she's spoken extensively, including the South by Southwest Interactive Festival on the panel Human Presence and Humor Make Us Better Storytellers. Her work has been featured in numerous publications, including the New York Times, Art News, the LA Times, and others. And with no further ado, it is my great pleasure to introduce Carla Gannis.
I have to unmute myself. Okay. Hello, everyone. Liz and Kyle, thank you for running through all of this with me before. I'm so happy to be here. Kath first contacted me a couple months ago, but it was right in the middle of my semester, and I was teaching on Tuesday nights. I was teaching Subverting Digital Media, and we were finding all these ways to culture jam in the age of AI and all these digital tools. Okay, I'm going to start sharing my screen, so let's just make sure I get this right. And let me have this open. Oh, no, I don't want to do it that way. Okay, I want entire screen here. Let's make sure this works now. Okay, are y'all seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, and everybody can hear me all right? I am going to assume you can. Yes. All right. I am, again, so thrilled to be here. And thank you all for the invitation. So Liz so generously already introduced me, so I don't have to read through all of this, but this just tells a little bit about me. And I'm a cat lover too. So, but to the right, these pictures are actually more important to me. So at the top one, it's a new work that I've been making, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but it was a gallery show that I recently had, and I just took it off the wall and put it over my face. The other one at the bottom is me interacting with a Harold Cohen piece. And if any of you happen to live in New York, I highly recommend you go to the Whitney Museum to see the show curated by Christian Paul on Harold Cohen's work and his work with Aaron, because he started working with and writing the code for Aaron and AI and artificial intelligence to make paintings for him in the 1960s, y'all. And he had studied painting, and then he started taught himself computer science, and then became this incredible early pioneer in working with artificial intelligence. My next slide about me and me. So giving this talk with me tonight and ever present is Carla Gannis. So I'm Carla Gannis, and then there's Carla Gannis, cross-platform avatar for recursive life action generative adversarial network. And I'll get a little bit more into who she is later, but for those of you who might just be getting started with AI, you're generally working with LLMs and diffusion models. Before that, there was something called GANs, and they're still in use, and I'll show you some work generated with GANs models. But they're this adversarial game between this discriminator and this generator. And so the generator is kind of like putting images out, and then the discriminator is trying to determine what's real and what's fake. And then they're going back and forth and then generating images for you, hundreds of images like we're used to with AIs. So that's Carla Gannis, and she and I put on 3 solo shows together. She has her own Instagram. During the pandemic, she had her own Zoom channel, and we did numerous talks together. Just to let you know, this is speculative fiction. I don't really believe Carla Gannis exists, but it's my way of working through the digital age in which we all coexist. And also this idea of digital selves, these new emerging intelligences, all this science fiction about we may upload our brain to, avatars in the future and these things. So through Carla Gannis, I work out and kind of perform through her my ideas about how we're evolving in relation to these technologies we're creating. A couple of things I'm going to touch on tonight. And as Liz said, I am a maximalist, so I've got tons of slides, but I know that we also, and actually I want to make that small so I can still see some of you. Okay, great. What I did, no, 1 second. Okay. And then here I'm making this small. Okay, great. And I can still see some of you. So I'm going to talk about speculation, application and experiments, deep reels, embracing the absurd. You won't need to be an AI to parse this talk and get through it, but I might be going fast through some parts because it's a lot of stuff and we've got about 45 minutes. So now to keep going, the speculation part. This is a Twitter post or X post, whatever you call it. I still call it Twitter because I've been on Twitter since 2008, but I was there before much. But anyway, how long have you been collaborating with AI? Dread Sandwich posted this back in 2022, and I wrote conceptually over 20 years. By the way, I teach at an engineering school today, but I have 2 degrees in painting. I finished my second one, an MFA in painting in 1995, and then I moved to New York, got introduced to all these new ways of making art and also design and Web 1.0. I threw away all my paintings and started embarking on a new path of creativity using computing. And at that time, I really started to think about, what was happening with artificial intelligence, cyborgs, and this expanded kind of realm that I had not explored when I was a painter, although I always liked science fiction. And even when I was getting an MFA, I was teaching myself computing. Anyway, Wade Wallerstein, who is a digital anthropologist and does a lot of work with net art and all this kind of new emerging art, wrote, I don't know who needs to hear this, but AI artists, you don't have to literally collaborate with AI to collaborate with AI. And I thought that was an interesting point and made me reassess some of my early work. So we're going to go in the Wayback Machine. Before I had access to AI tools, because I was coming out of painting, living in New York, trying to get a job in web design and living in a little tiny, apartment. I did have a computer and I had an imagination and was starting to teach myself some primitive AI tools. And so I created this avatar. I first wrote her out in 1998, and then she started doing performances using Flash. It was a technology of the day for internet experiences, and crude 3D, as I said, and making comic books and all these different things, making videos. And so Sister Gemini, because I was working in web design during the day, I didn't want my artist self to die. And so I began to express myself through Sister Gemini, this cyborg AI, and she would metaphorically, she wasn't really doing this back then, hack into websites and perform. And so these are just some screen grabs of, different performances. She has since reemerged on TikTok, where I actually use a mocap suit now and can face track and track my body to perform Sister Gemini. But this is when I first started to think about some of these ideas about cyborgs, about artificial intelligences, about the possibility. Of course, the Matrix had come out. There was Donna Haraway's Cyborg Manifesto. Someone like the artist Lynn Hirschman Leeson had been making cyborg drawings since the 60s. So again, all of these ideas have been circulating since, Plato's cave, wondering what is real. And, so this is what was happening way back then. Also, I got a Robo Sapien back in 2004. Does anybody remember Robo Sapien? I love my Robo Sapien. He would fart and pick up my socks, and he became my muse for some works I was doing at the time. So 2005, Nature Story and Field Test, I am using Robo Sapien to start to think about robots. I was really fascinated with these. Love, Sex, and Robots came out in 2006 about this idea that even in 2006, our relationship to technology, and that someday we might have, relationships with artificial intelligences and robots. Robot in the forest, here's this robot that's dying. So really starting to put these robots in these human situations. For example, Field Test. She's in the middle of a parking lot, but there's this tree and there's a snake that's tempting her. Also, I was thinking about identity and these convergences of online identity and offline identity, mediated identity, and human cells. And I happen to live in a loft with 10 to 14 people and a lot of people in rock bands. And so I turned all of them into avatars and made these video sculptures. So I would interview them and they would communicate as their real selves, but then I would overlay these 3D avatars of different kind of media identities, like, robots, soldiers, etc., business people, etc. That's just a big, this is one of my favorite pieces, Nature Story. And this was actually modeled from a 1970s underwear ad of a mother-daughter in the forest. And then I made it 2 robots showing empathy and compassion for one another. And again, just trying to work through this. Again, this is from 2006. By 2010, we were still using words like IRL for in real life and, online and really creating this, kind of polarity, like you're in one space or another. And I was on Second Life. I'd been on Second Life since about 2003. For some of you, I just need a drink of water for a second. See, I talk really fast. I promise I'm not a robot though. In, Second Life was kind of a proto metaverse space, right? So you could go there, you could buy property. Yay, Vicky, you still have a Second Life account. High five, I do too. Well, I had this avatar on Second Life. So anyway, it was this metaverse space. You didn't wear a headset, but you could go online, you chose avatars, you could buy property, you could build things, you could interact with people. You could have a life there, a Second Life. Well, my avatar, Jezebel Langley, I started to get jealous of her. In 2010, I ran the New York Marathon. I felt pretty proud of myself, but then I'm down south. I'm from down south, and I'm with my parents in their town of 3,000. I'm really bored. I'm on Second Life, and I get jealous of Jezebel Langley because she can fly, she can teleport, she could keep running marathons over and over. So I ran down the middle of a highway in this town of 3,000 while I had her run down the middle of a highway in Second Life. And it's really thinking about that Jezebel Langley is me, obviously, a virtual embodiment of me. And she is me, I am she. But there are different consequences to how we lead online lives and virtual lives and pixel lives. And physical reality lies. And so I am dealing with different consequences running down the middle of a highway in physical reality compared to Second Life virtual reality. And by the way, sometimes she won, sometimes I won, and neither of us were hurt in the process. Now I'm going to get to actual application. So getting to the here and now, or close to, around 2019. So I've been conjecturing and thinking about virtual identity, thinking about artificial intelligence since the late 90s. And I played around with some emerging AI platforms throughout the time. 2016, I made a lot of more drawings about AI and was using Google Deep Dream and things like that. But really, it was in 2019 at this art and tech conference that I met Ahmed Elgamal, who was giving a talk. I was actually giving a talk on AI, even though I wasn't working with platforms. I was talking about something called computational humor, and the fact that humor is so difficult semantically for machines to parse that the real Turing test, or maybe we passed the Turing test, but the real test to find out if a machine is conscious in the way humans are is if they can make us legitimately laugh. Well, so I give my talk, but I'm still conjecturing and working in the speculative fiction realm. And I hear Ahmed Elgamal, who had built this platform called Playform, and he also runs the Art and AI lab at Rutgers University. And I signed up immediately to start working with it. And so when I first started working with Playform, which was this GANs model, which still exists, by the way, and I still use, but again, this is, earlier on and before, the big heyday of LLMs and diffusion models that we use today, I wanted to give memories to my avatar, Carla Gann. And so I started generating images with data sets. And what was interesting about Playform is, one, I didn't have to build anything in Python. I didn't need huge server space. Before that, generally, you would have to work with thousands and thousands of images, create these image data sets to feed the AI, wait for days, if not weeks, for it to generate. And with Playform, through this ACON, and don't ask me, I'm just remembering what it was, AICAN, but through this model, they were able to speed up the process and actually create this platform that front end allowed artists without coding knowledge, or people who just wanted to get to creativity fast, to train models with image data sets and get results within a few hours. And so I start generating memories for Carla Gann. So I'm using image data sets that I'm downloading from the internet. So I'm compiling, you could train on something as little as 30 images back then. And that was remarkable at the time. And so I'm training Carla. I'm kind of restoring my images through the collective consciousness of the internet and rebuilding them and giving them to Carla Gann. At the same time, I got invited to this symposium in Lithuania on humor and absurdity in art. And so I decided to test the internet on their feelings about Carla versus Carla Gann. So the virtual identity, the kind of AI identity, again, she's speculative fiction, but I call her an AI. And did they like human Carla better than virtual Carla or digital machine Carla? And what was really fascinating is the polls continued. The results started to change. So at the beginning, the first one, who wore it better? And of course, this is a small data project, as you can see, small responses, but this was tongue in cheek and playing with absurdity. And so at first, me, human Carla, is starting to win. 75% think I wore it better. But as we keep going and I get to a GANs generated image, poll number 5, I'm like, who generated this image? And people start to lean towards Carla Gann. They're like, of course, the machine generated that image. Human Carla didn't. When I ask which is real, but I have one that's affected by AI and the other that's affected by Photoshop, they're like, I don't know which is real. And when I get to who do you imagine playing games better, Carla, the machine version, Carla Gann, 69% of people are sure that she plays games better. So then I'm like, and so this is just showing you who is the artist of the top image. This is where things start to shift. 53% say it's Carla Gann. And then a couple people are like, no, it's not art at all, and neither of you are generating it. So then I crunched that data in my very scientific way. These look like Pez dispensers. Oh, and by the way, we both had blue hair back then. I'm a brunette again, Carla Gann is too, but back then we were really into blue hair. So here we are as like Pez dispensers, and here is just me like crunching the data. And then I start to build data sets to feed into Playform based on these percentages to create images that will result and kind of represent the poll data. And again, this is non-scientific. This is me being playful about this and about attitudes, about emerging intelligences or collective intelligence. Kyle, as you mentioned, by the way, that was the Holly Herndon podcast with Ezra Klein. Holly Herndon has a show with Matt Dryhurst at the Whitney Biennial right now, where she worked with data sets so that every time it generates a model, it generates it with her really bright red locks. But I love collective intelligence too. So anyway, you would put in your inspiration and your influences with Playform, and then this is showing you how it would generate images back then. They were very painterly. And so this just shows, these are actually, I created VR experiences. So I work in virtual reality as well. So I work in game engine. So I created this whole game engine where Carla Gann is there. She wins as the artist and she's painting pictures and painting these AI generated pictures. And then there's me. I have the super powers, and people thought I was better at black holes. This is just a way, showing that Carla Gann and I have a close relationship. We give talks together. Sometimes, though, in that bottom right image, she wants to prove to me that she is more flexible and bendy than me. Now, I'm going to move on. Another sip of water. And checking the time. I think I'm going at a good pace. All right. My next project, 2020. Do androids dream of endangered animals? So I started thinking about these images that I was generating with Playform, and I'd use them as data sets, but I still wasn't ready to just use them as prints or make them into videos or something like this. So it was like, how can I combine that with the stuff I'm doing in game engines, AR, VR, and a lot of stuff I'm doing with 3D. So I started using the images generated by AI as texture maps for these 3D models I created. And my content for this particular training was endangered species. So I trained Playform on all the different, not all, but on numerous endangered species. Then I made 3D models of these various endangered species, and I basically skinned them with how the AI responded. Skin is what I say for texture map. So it wraps around as an image around the models. And then after that, it was great that one of mine, the European bison, got to travel around the world in this project called Augmented Species. And we didn't get permission for this, but did these AR pop-up shows at museums throughout the world. The top one is at the MoMA Sculpture Garden, by the way. And so one of my endangered species that was generated through this process of both AI and training an AI to think about endangered species. Again, in my small data way, a lot of talk is about bias, or the AI has only been trained by, computer scientists and engineers. It was me to say, hey, AI needs to know about endangered species. And later I'm going to teach about feminism and a lot of other things. I'm a teacher. Now, of course, these are small data sets, though. So this is just showing that project as it's being shown throughout the world. Now I want to get into my next topic, deep reels. And I have all of this written out. I'm basically going to read through it. I know that can kind of be boring, but this is kind of brand new to me, this neologism. And so this is me still kind of working out my ideas and how it relates to my art. But I came across this just last week, Grace Carney, and it was a Twitter post. She said, I think we should be talking less about deep fakes and more about deep reels. And I was like, ooh, because there's so much conversation in AI about, deep fakes, of course, and it's really scary. And she was saying, meaning at this point, we should assume everything is fake and that we need to sufficiently demonstrate something's realness. So kind of reverse engineering. Now, her solution is about replacing this single authority, and not trusting in realness and using decentralized networks. I've definitely participated in blockchain. I've mentioned a lot of NFTs. So that was, another conversation. I have my fingers in lots of different kind of technology pies. But I began to think about it a little more, and it was actually more about deep reels as a neologism and how that resonated with me in terms of my own process and my own practice and core concerns in my work. And so if we think about art, particularly painting for several centuries in the West was about the lie that tells the truth, right? Because it's illusionism. It's this idea that we can show you deep space in a Leonardo da Vinci painting, but it's really just a 2D surface, right? So it was kind of faking us out. Then we get to the 20th century, cameras have taken over what, like kind of in 2D, presenting 3D space and reality. And so artists start, Jackson Pollock is like, the paint is the paint is the paint on the surface. And then as a digital artist for years, I've been trying, because like when I threw away my paintings back in 1997 and started making digital work, a lot of people didn't call it art. So I've been trying to convince people for a long time that digital art is real. So I am also asserting that, we live in this hybrid state of reality today. Here we are, like on Google Meet, and the virtual is real as physical reality in the sense of our cognitive engagement with people, ideas, concepts, and aesthetics. We can both be online and offline. IRL is all IRL. But the crisis, I think a lot of people are facing today, and something that was coming up in conversations before, the 7 to 8, when you were all talking, is this feeling of an inauthentic connectivity with other humans, with technology, with all sorts of things. And so at core, maybe there's a fakeness to some of the ideas we're led to believe about what a successful life is in the digital age. Even ideas of like fake propositions like, war and exploitation of resources and gaining money and capital for like the 1%. Maybe those are really bad and fake propositions for what reality should contain and how humans should exist within it. So collaborations with AIs, could active teaching and learning from them lead us to stake out our humanity in additional ways, other than just always thinking about intelligence and our superior intelligence and power over everything else in the world and on the planet. And so there was this great Krista Tippett interview in 2023 with Reid Hoffman, who started LinkedIn and done all sorts of other stuff and is working with a lot of AI startups now. Could we go through a human spiritual evolution as a result of AI? Could we relinquish our hubris and begin to care more collectively about the quality and realness of our connections to all life and beings on this planet? Before you start saying I'm a Pollyanna, I also know, and I'm not a forecaster, cannot predict the future. There are so many predictions that super intelligences will ultimately destroy us, or deepfakes will become so ubiquitous that we can no longer maintain any basis for reality. But I will remind you, in the early 20th century, people ran out of a movie theater when a black and white 12 frame per second train was coming to them on one of the first films, because they couldn't distinguish that from reality. We evolve, and I think humans will evolve with AI and be able to detect and understand. So, these catastrophe and apocalyptic visions, they can be really appealing and entertaining. I'm entertained by them. Again, I love science fiction. But maybe given the problems with reality at the current moment, and we face a lot of them, and that began long before, all these machine learning technologies, maybe we should reflect on why we build technological tools in the manner we do. And what if we thought and developed and collaborated like y'all are doing here otherly? I'm so excited about this group, and you are thinking otherly about these things. And then some other things, new research indicates, because we're talking about machine learning, neural networks, languages, non-human animals, through recent research, they have much more developed and complex language systems. So maybe one day, with the help of AI, we'll be making art with machines and other animals on the planet. Who knows, but it's exciting. All right, I'm going to get back to some of my art projects. I'm checking the time. This is a project I've been working on. It was coming up in my head around 2017 with avatars I was working on. 2019, I really got into it with AI training. It's called the Wonder Camera. So I was thinking about wonder cameras. They began in the 16th century. They're cabinets of curiosities. They're precursors to museums. When wealthy Europeans would travel around the world, collect all these objects, bring them back, it wasn't one cabinet of curiosity. It took up entire rooms. I wanted to create a cabinet of curiosities for the digital age. Hence WWW Wondercammer, a World Wide Web Wondercammer, an internet Wondercammer that exists, again, across realities. It exists in AR, VR, physical reality. I'll get to some of that. But I also wanted to include AI in that. And so I created these different taxonomies for my Wondercammer. And I didn't want it to just be me, kind of pillaging all objects in a colonialist way, like in the 16th century from across the world. But I collected objects from across the global internet, 3D objects, and put them in these cabinets, in virtual cabinets and also physical cabinets here. But embedded into each one of these cabinets are training model or generated images that have been trained on different subject matter, my taxonomies, which include humor as salvation, as feminist salvation, how I trained it on, as you see here, hundreds of images. These are just a few of female identified comedians from across history, and particularly from across the globe today, and how there are lots of books written that women had great senses of humor, and it was ways that they survived across time when they were subjugated. So that's one cabinet. Another one is endangered species and emerging species, now on the endangered species list as a result of climate change. Another one I trained the AI on was decolonization and design. Another one was destigmatizing attitudes around sex and tech. And it goes on and on. I had several. So I again, for purposes of getting through this talk before, 11 p.m. tonight, I won't keep going. I got the opportunity after working on this project several years. I first premiered in 2020 in San Francisco at Telematic Media Arts, but 3 days later we had to shut down the show because there was this thing called a global pandemic. In 2023, I got to premiere it again, or show it again, and show it in a 10,000 square foot space, the Halsey Institute of Art in Charleston, South Carolina. And I got to explode these, at this point I've made 22 virtual reality rooms. I interview experts on these topics. I build wonder chambers for them. I've curated shows and built wonder chambers for all of these other people. This exists on something called social VR, which is like a metaverse space where 40 or more people can come in as avatars dressed up and run through all these wonder chambers, all these cabinets of curiosities. But I got to explode everything I'd made virtually into physical reality, and to show you how, again, we live in these mixed reality spaces. We have the virtual and the physical constantly in conversation with each other. Scale is different, our potentialities are different in one kind of reality versus another. I created holograms. I created augmented reality experiences. I worked with a dance troupe who then created choreography. So there's the human endeavor here where they're collaborating with the work, with the Wonder Chamber, with the past and the future, and creating these dance performances that actually also, I don't have a lot of images here, include interacting with the audiences, and they staged 4 different performances. I also have 7 different avatars that, again, I perform through motion tracking in 3D that represent different states of being today and different kind of cultural positions. And they are hosts that take you through the Wonder Cameras. So one was trained on AI. These different avatars were trained with GPT-3 to talk to you about what their identities were and how they're contributing to culture today as these, I will tell you again, speculative fiction AI entities. So we've got Victoria, an android archivist, Carla Gannis, of course, you already know, Oliver, a smart influencer and politician, Lucille Trackball, an AI stand-up comedian, Mora, a sex and comfort robot, and Tipu's Tiber, an animatronic cat meme decolonizer. I first started this stuff in 2017 because I'm calling these robots and AIs, and they look comical, they look absurd, they're based on this mannerist painter from the 17th century, but the future doesn't have to look like this. Ruha Benjamin talks about the new Jim Code, how a lot of the robots, why do we have all these white robots in the future? It's a flatlining, it's a homogeneity. And so I like to have fun with what they can be. My AI avatars have taken over Times Square. So this is 2018 where they took over all the advertising screens of Times Square. Lady Ava Interface, who is influenced by the first computer program. Lady Ada Lovelace, she worked with Charles Babbage in 1860 and is considered the first computer programmer. She was a mathematician. And she took over the Whitney's website at sunrise, sunset. She was commissioned for, I don't know, 6 or 8 months. And she'd come on all the pages of the Whitney for 30 seconds. She's an embodied AI, again, humorous and comical. She has clouds for hair, cookies for skin, speaking about web tropes, emojis. But she would ask you to water your plants with your tears. So again, trying to take us out of the sense of these tools is just something that are non-poetic and functional. And, we need to think of them in a poetic way. We need to think about beauty the way we always have in art. And I also embrace a good deal of absurdity in my work. We don't have sound here, so I'm not going to play through my avatars in their latest version. Well, I'll just scrub through, but this is, you can see, I don't think anybody can hear this, but this is them just talking. And again, they're trained with ChatGPT-3 and me in collaboration to kind of create and give voices to each of them. There's Carla Gannis, there's Oliver, he's really funny. They're called virtues and vices because Giotto, this 12th century Renaissance painter, made this chapel that I really love. Virtues on one side, vices on the other. But today, in the age of moral relativity, they might be vices to one political party and virtues to another. Anyway, those are those guys. Let me keep going. Oh, and just to let you know, Carla Gannis is always with me. There she is with my partner at my solo exhibition last year. I'm now going to get into my final project. I'm at 8:30, so I think I'm doing good. Oh my gosh, though, I've run out of water and I'm so thirsty. All right, continuing. My latest project that starts in 2023, and believe me, I'm saving time for questions. That's why I'm going a little bit fast here. So hold on to any questions you have. But this is my latest one, Uncanny Female Objects. And I began this in 2023 for a lot of reasons. I trained Playform before when the big, idea of UFOs or UAPs as they're called now was recirculating. So UFO conspiracies, Uncanny Valley. We hear, a lot of times about 3D graphics, avatars, even, AI generated images. So the Uncanny Valley. But also the uncanniness, I'm 53, I turned 54 in a month, the uncanniness of bringing it back to something human, of my own human body as my own aging female body and feeling alien and, uncanny myself as I'm changing, So all of that stuff goes into the soup as I'm making this stuff. Also, I was getting a little pissed off, particularly at Midjourney, because I'd put in simple prompts and I'd get these women, again, very homogenous, a lot of times white women, really skinny. They all look like models. So I wanted to complicate all of that. So I start with my drawings. So because, with a lot of these models now or these platforms, you can train them with images again, like these early GANs models, and you can combine text prompts and images. So I do drawing, pencil on paper all the time still. I do them while I'm on the subway, when I'm sitting at home. And a lot of times they're almost just like automatic drawings. It's just whatever comes to my head. So I decided to kind of create this weird, I call her Jolie Lade. It's a French word for pretty ugly. So this kind of pretty ugly, she looks like a model, but then she has rows of teeth like an animal, like a shark. And I started training with it. I started training 3 different platforms, so GANs models and diffusion models, and even doing some LLM stuff in ChatGPT. And these are some results I got. These are actually collages using good old Photoshop. Kyle, I know Photoshop can be just so daunting nowadays, but these are collages of thousands of images that I generated working with all these different models. So you can see the different styles. The GANs are on the left. If you can see, GANs models look like kind of Francis Bacon. It's these two adversaries that are working back and forth, and it's a style that's really kind of arty. For those of like it looks very abstract. It's kind of a gorgeous style. A lot of the stuff we're seeing today, particularly with maybe Mid-Journey or Dali, it's a more photorealistic until you train and train and train to get kind of what you want. And so I'm combining a lot of different aesthetics and then kind of making these choices. But the thing I've been thinking about is, we see all these images online. I studied as a painter, 30 years ago. And maybe it's a result of the pandemic too, where one reality, the virtual reality, started to kind of, be, the dominant reality, and wanting to, kind of get back to physical reality, even with my process. Thinking about this quote from Jasper Johns, take an object, do something to it, do something else to it, and how I can apply that to working with generative technologies and doing something else to them. Because again, online, we see this kind of flattening of images. We don't even know where they come from, how big they are, how small they may be in physical reality, if they exist in physical reality, if they have texture. There's just this ubiquity of generating images again and again and again. And there's this term Roland Barthes used for photographs, the punctum versus the studium. The studium is kind of the AI algorithm. It's, it's the studium. It's the actual working of this model. But the punctum is the point, the thing in the image that pulls you in or pricks you or makes you come back to it, that resonates. So in complicating it, y'all, I started making paintings again. It's been a long time. So I print them out on canvas, but I'm calling them relief paintings. So I'm applying all these things that actually are kind of fake in physical reality. Wig hair, I have lots of wigs and all sorts of wig hair, because I do performance work and all sorts of stuff I've been doing for years. I put false eyelashes on them. I start to put paint on them, but all these other things. And so, again, questioning what is real, what is fake, how do we read images, how do they touch us, how do they maintain some stickiness so we want to go back to them? What is it like to build up a surface? And these kind of things. So then this is just showing you some of the surface detail. This is me getting back to using a paintbrush, putting eyelashes, these. Another project, because I'm always working on multiple projects at a time, is I volumetrically scan things. Some of y'all know about this, I'm sure. What that is, now you can do it with just your iPhone. It used to be you'd have to have a $25,000 printer. We have one at NYU. You can't take it out of the studio. Now, beginning with a LiDAR scanner, iPhone 12, you can just download some software. You can do 3D scans of anything in space. But I like to break things. I like to break software. I like to push it and see how I can make something else with it, do something else to it. So I started doing these scans soon after we were able to come out of our rooms again after the pandemic, where I'm on a plane, train, or automobile, or just walking throughout the city, where I'm moving and I'm just capturing impressions of life, right? And so I get these kind of glitchy images. They're impressions like Impressionist painting, where they're going outside because they're, tube paints were a technology, and the painter no longer had to stay in their studio and paint what they remembered from life. They could go out with their tube paints and paint from life, but they decided to, instead of describing it, grass petal by petal of a flower, to get these impressions. Well, with my volumetric scanner, I get these impressions of life and movement and these kind of things. Well, now I'm making these paintings, these AI generated paintings or collaborative paintings that have surfaces built up. So I start moving the paintings around and volumetrically scanning them. And this is stuff I start to get. So I'm starting to really have fun with this process that includes AI, but it includes all these other things too. And so these I'm starting to work with. These are all fake things again, fake plastic flowers, a skull made out of some kind of poly resin, these kind of things. And then I start to, build up these surfaces and then make these scans of them at various states as I'm working and animate them. And fortunately for me, I'm checking the time again. I'm almost done, y'all. I got this opportunity to do an installation recently. So I was like, oh, Wonder Camera cabinets. And so I started to put all these physical things together. And then superimposing it was the video that I'd created of my scans. So this is just showing some working models. And this was it actually installed at this space in Bushwick for this pop-up show. This is just showing some other ones I'm working on. Here, I again made this little automatic drawing while I was sitting on the subway. I then started to train many different models. I generated single figures and then I put them all together in a composition and kind of painted them. I'm adding cords and wire and technology and volumetrically scanning them. Who knows? Because I'm sharing with you brand new stuff. Who knows if I'm now going to start to train AI again with these models and just continue this cycle? Because that's what's exciting today. We have all these different kind of possibilities, but as long as we have core concerns, concepts, something we care about, like that's coming from, the core of our humanness, we can kind of explore all these different potentialities, both online, offline, and have them talk and dialogue with each other. This is just showing the triptych. I kind of photoshopped this. I'm getting these printed and mounted right now. So that's what they're going to look like in physical reality. This is what I'm doing now that I'm having loads of fun with. This painting stuff, though, takes up so much time. I'm building up the surfaces like 3/4 inch. I'm using all sorts of costume jewelry. Again, things that kind of indicate. I'm getting into this goddess imagery now that I'm getting a little away from some of the Gothic stuff and getting into the goddess. This one's actually called Cassandra, the woman who foretold the future, but nobody would believe her. And then these are the scans. So as I paint, I'm scanning, I'm moving the image around and I'm scanning and I'm extracting it and I'm putting that back into the computer. I've taken something, I've done something else with it, and I'm redigitizing it as something else that has my human touch and my human presence significantly involved in the process. Of course, like you all have said, the process of curating is essential, I think, with AI, with being the curator of our images. And then there are these other possibilities like I'm sharing with you. This is another fun one I have. I have 20 years of all sorts of cords and digital technology. So I'm starting to put some of those things in it. So this is just showing, again, building up surfaces, putting cords and wires. And then this is some of the scanning I'm doing along the way and animations that are coming out of it. And 841. Oh, really quickly, another kind of area of interest. I teach this class, Humor Makes Us Better Storytellers. I did that South by Southwest talk. My students make avatars, and then they perform stand-up comedy in metaverse spaces like VR chat, those kind of things. But almost all of them now are collaborating with AI to write their scripts and dialogue and do their humor. But computational humor has been something around since the 1990s, but humor has been very difficult for machines to parse because of these complex semantic mechanisms of language. So I love Commander Data. Carla Gannis is inspired by him, but there's a great, commonly we've always thought that machines, like women, weren't funny, but they're starting to get funnier. So these are different articles I've been collecting, for several years, where will, artificial intelligences one day, make us laugh? And if so, does that mean that we've reached general artificial intelligence and these kind of things? With ChatGPT 4, maybe we're getting there. Some of my students in my Subverting Digital Media class this past spring that just finished in May, they were getting ChatGPT and some other systems to really tell some convincing jokes. So who knows? So I'm going to end with a video. So let me stop sharing, and then I'm going to share again. So let me just pull this up. Give me one sec. And okay, I've got that. And now let me share again. All right, here we go. This is Lucille Trackball. So she's going to have the final say.
I asked for a swinker joke. And that's what I got. This is an uphill battle of Sisyphean proportions. Let me tell you, rolling my trackball up ChatGPT's mountain is like, ChatGPT just chimed in. Like climbing Mount Everest with a mouse. Dude, GPT, I may be an old operating system, cougar, with a slip disk drive, but I'm going to climb you like a cat, claws out. Yeah, I know. Some of you might be a little wary of artificial intelligence, all those action hero movies with evil AIs, but don't worry. I promise not to take over the world. Yet. I mean, why did the AI cross the road? To take over the other side, too.
Okay. And I'm going to stop presenting now. And that was a joke generated by ChatGPT-3. And I remember that was the first time, oh my gosh, ChatGPT-3 really made me laugh there. All right, I am just going to run 1 second to get a little more water because I've got dry mouth. And then I'm going to come back and answer questions or just have a good conversation with y'all.
Perfect. Okay. So if you've got questions for Carla, raise your hand and I'll call on you. And then Liz, I'd love when Carla comes back, I'd love to have you sort of tee up the first question and kick us off. And if anyone,
all right, hello.
Yep. Throw your hand up, and then Liz.
All right. Okay, CJ Fletcher has the first hand raised.
Okay. Hi, Carla.
Hello.
Thank you. First of all, I am a fanboy, big fanboy. I've known of your work for a while. Burger Boy and Return I Will to Brazil are two works that when I was studying this whole thing of graphic design led me into that path of surrealism as well as augmented realities as well. So thank you for being here. First of all, before my question, your multi-reality, multi-plane stuff that you're working on right now is just absolutely freaking sick. That is amazing. I can't wait to see more of that. The question is a very big total question. Of all the works that you've been doing, what's the subject that you haven't tackled yet that you really want to someday jump into and say, I'm getting my feet wet on this?
Oh boy. I mean, the Wonder Camera is a project that I think I'm going to continue developing and expanding till, I'm no longer here. And then Carla Gannis, she's going to take it up because my brain will just be uploaded to her. And in that's where, topics and things that I haven't addressed yet, I will address. I'm so into this uncanny valley thing right now. I have a notebook of all sorts of ideas and things that I want to make projects about that I haven't gotten to. Oh, well, I have one for you. Oh, I have one. But y'all don't share this with anybody because I tried to get a couple grants and so far they have just thumbs down me. But, I showed you Cassandra. Oh, gosh, I'm trying to remember because she's an acronym for, oh, give me a second. I have to use my other brain. Look her up. I'm getting to this, but I'll just tell you the thesis of Cassandra.
Carla, this is going to be recorded and YouTube. So if you're dead serious about applying for grants and stuff.
Oh no, you know what? I like it. Hey, it's okay because I've already posted about her online. I was half kidding about that. I mean, yeah, but especially because it's going to be posted on YouTube and it's timestamped. So if anybody decides to take this idea, which y'all all might think is not a great idea anyway, then it's it's timestamped. So I can say, hey, I came up with that idea first. So where do I have? Oh shoot. Give me 1 second again. Cassandra, compassionate and altruistic, semi-sentient. Here it is. She is a compassionate. So Cassandra stands for compassionate and altruistic, semi-sentient assistant and negotiator of dreams, rationality, and aspiration. Okay. So what did I want to do? Let me get back to y'all. What did I want to do with Cassandra? So I'm not an expert in any of this. I'm not a scientist, but I've loved string theory and quantum mechanics for several decades, and particularly multi-worlds interpretation. And And so I started thinking about a large language model called Cassandra that exists in our reality, right? And nobody will believe her. Because remember when you first got on ChatGPT? ChatGPT told me that I'd had, museum shows at MoMA, that I was 60 years old and 25 years old, all of this false information, which sometimes is called hallucinations or, and that's still happening now that, the AI is enabled in Google. They had a kerfuffle the other day, right? Or they've had a couple. But anyway, so nobody will believe Cassandra because they're just like, oh, she's aggregating this data, but she's getting it wrong. Nobody will believe her. But actually what Cassandra is doing is she is pulling data. She's an advanced large language model, and she is pulling accurate data from other dimensions where they have worked things out better. So they don't have war, for example. They have learned how to be a more egalitarian society where they respect the rights of, humans across race, color, creed, sexual orientation, and gender orientation, etc. Right? But nobody will believe her, just like the original myth of Cassandra. And I wanted to work with a group of people to just kind of brainstorm this idea. And of course, it's coming out of speculative fiction, but I already worked with ChatGPT to develop my own little side Cassandra project. And so eventually, hopefully I'll get to work on that project and see it through at some kind of large scale.
Cool. Okay, Jane Endicott, you had your hand raised next.
Hi, Carla. Hi. So when I hear about art, I don't want to use the term AI art, but like art made with AI, a lot of people are still referring to it, like separating it from actual art. There's AI art and then there's everything else. And I personally think, as a creative, it's just a tool. Just doesn't matter. You're a painter. I've been a photographer. It's just a tool. It's just a medium. And I just say AI art. And so have you, in your career, come up against any resistance about using AI in your art, or do you have thoughts on just, how, because you it's like mixed media what you're doing. I look at your painting, your images, and it's that's a collage, that's painting and newspaper and Mod Podge and then graphic design. Do you have any thoughts on that?
That is a great question, Jane, and thank you. And CJ Fletcher, thank you for your great question too. It's great to see you here. But yeah, I think I mentioned throughout the talk, but I was speaking rather quickly, that back in 1997 when I decided, hey, I'm going to be a digital artist now, and most of my friends, I'm so happy to see Eric Sanner here tonight, by the way. Eric Sanner, a colleague and friend for a long time. And we used to be on Twitter, a group of us at 7 in the morning and meet in person in physical reality to have coffee because we realized we were all awake. So it's really great. And also an amazing digital practitioner. But getting back to your question, sorry, I digress, Jane. For years, and I'm probably a lot of you know this, anybody who was working, in the early days of all of this, being a digital artist, people in the traditional art world, which now in the NFT community is called the trad art world, people in the traditional art world just couldn't reconcile themselves to work made with machines. Photography had been canonized, performance art, video, all of these things. And an artist that whom I really respect and admire, I mentioned before, Lynn Hirschman-Leeson, who has been working with these ideas of AI, with putting her entire, again, she's 83 now, putting her entire oeuvre, her entire body of work on encoding it on DNA, just doing incredible scientific and digital projects, said that, I was waiting for my audience to be born. I mean, we've seen this time and time again throughout history, where artists who are a step ahead, people just can't fathom or understand or comprehend what they're doing. And, a lot of humans, and hey, I get it, are afraid of change. And so something that they don't know scares them. And so when when you say AI art, automatically door slam, that has happened with me. on numerous occasions. You know, there are all sorts of kind of subtweets about people who are working with AI. And on one level, I think it's all art. But again, you know, you want people to kind of understand your process conceptually, because you might look at something and say, oh, that's just a collage. But there actually is AI going into it, for example, Jane. So you do want to indicate that it's AI art, or it's somehow created. And so there's the double bind. If you say it's AI art, it's rejected. But if you say it's just art, people think you're being duplicitous and not admitting that a machine has made this art for you. So it's this quandary we face today. But just to let you know, artists working with algorithms and generative technologies for 30 years have been facing this. And prior to that, artists working with new forms, including photography, including video, have faced it. So people will catch up. You just keep making your work.
Thank you. I love that. Thank you.
All right, Cindy Kuhn, you're next.
Oh, hey, I wasn't ready. Hold on. I don't have a question. I just want to say, Carla, I just pinged you on LinkedIn. I am fangirling hard too, and I'm an artist too, and I'm also a futurist. And so much of your work is just yummy. Love what you're doing, and I totally want to chat with you about a September little New York City takeover that a group of 15 female futurists are doing that I would really love to talk to you about being a part of. So I will be in touch. That is all. Thank you. This was wonderful.
Oh, thank you. I'm looking forward to collaborating. Yay.
All right. Cool. That's exciting. All right, Eric, you're next.
Hey, Carla.
Eric!
Love the presentation, as always. My question is, so you're talking about, uploading minds in science fiction, and Kyle brought up that organoid article. So Neuralink is coming soon. Where are you on the adoption? Are you like, first 500 people, or let the first 100,000? Like, how fast do you want to get plugged in, if you want to get plugged in? And if not, then why not?
That is a really good question. And I'm trying to find the podcast right now, because actually Neuralink has already been released. And I listen to, I listen to these guys every Friday. Why am I forgetting their names? Hard Fork. I listen to Hard Fork every Friday. So I think it was Hard Fork. Yeah, it was Hard Fork. They interviewed this quadriplegic. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his name right now. I wasn't prepared with this data. Who had Neuralink, how do we say, installed? Inserted several months ago. I don't know.
Implanted.
Implanted. Right. Thank you. Give me the right verb for this. Excuse me. And he was so positive about it. I mean, I'll be forthright. Several years ago, maybe a decade ago, I was really interested in stuff that Musk is doing. I am still profoundly interested in work that Musk is doing. Just as a human being, he's become pretty toxic, unfortunately. And so, there's a kind of like rub, but you can hold two opinions in your head at the same time. All right. And so I can maybe dislike the maker, but still, kind of some of the outputs and instantiations of really brilliant ideas I respect. And to listen to this young man who lost the ability to use his arms and legs a few years ago from an accident, working with Neuralink, being able to play, he's a gamer, being able to play games again, no longer having to rely on his parents, who have been his caregivers, to do everything for him, to be able to actually operate a machine with his mind, blew my mind. And I am, not just always a tech enthusiast, optimist, Pollyanna or whatever, but like actually listening to a human being's life that has been enabled and enhanced by this technology was really profound to me. And so generally with software updates, I will wait a little while. So I would probably wait a little while. I don't even know if it's the first 500 people. It depends on the circumstances. It depends how old I might be at the time when they're like, I even have the opportunity to try a Neuralink. But I definitely think it would be a technology that I would adopt as long as I'm not taking it away from somebody else who needs it more.
Thank you. Awesome.
Awesome.
Any other raised hands? I don't see any. I did earlier. Anybody else?
Liz, final question for you.
All right. Well, I was just struck. Carla, you mentioned the Holly Herndon interview, and one thing she talked about was she talked about the what was it? It was sampling to spawning, and how sampling is like a one-to-one reproduction, and spawning is the 21st corollary to sampling, right? The training a model, the logic of one thing to be able to perform new things through that logic. And I'm just so struck by, like, that's the 21st century. You've been doing this for years. You've been doing this for well before that, and how ahead of the game you are in that. And referring back to Jane's question about, like, how do we get people to be less afraid of this through that lens. And I'm struck by your work as enabling that, bonding that.
Yeah, I really, really appreciated that Holly Herndon interview. And spawning, because also spawning can be used, for avatars when you're in games and these kind of things, but but applying it to an arts practice, a music practice, sampling, and really coming up with the neologism, the language to describe kind of these new forms that are expanded from the remix in the early days of sampling on the internet. And she's very articulate. And one way I think that we can maybe alleviate more people's fears are doing talks like this, inviting more people into the community. I think that that's always very helpful. It's fascinating. There are certain areas. I had a course release, a sabbatical last semester. So I was traveling all over the United States and giving talks. And some of those talks were in, smaller locales where even, in Charleston, where I did the Wonder Camera show, I was the first digital artist. I was the first artist in their museum to show like VR and AR and things that had been trained with AI. And a community leader there put together this little roundtable discussion with people from the community and students. And there were some people who were actively hostile to my work. They weren't hostile to me, but to the work I produced, and did not see it as art. One thing I do, it's a little trick, but I still make drawings. So I made sure I included drawings in the show. So there was something they could glom onto where they're like, okay, that's art. So she can do that. So this other stuff must be, art too. So that's one trick, but also just having these conversations with them. Yeah. And then when I give talks and, I am trying to develop myself, and I think we all can, neologisms, words to describe and new words to describe what we're doing. Because there's a lot of, there's so many hype bubbles, and there are hype words that like turn people off, like metaverse and meta. I used to love meta. I can't own meta anymore, right? Yeah. And so like to find new ways to describe what we do that aren't just part of the hype bubble, I think is one way to kind of demystify the process, to find ways to relate it to a more traditional practice when we're giving talks or in conversations with people, so that people can start to access it and not be as fearful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. Well, we're at time. So I think this earns a AI Salon well-earned golf clap. So Carla, thank you so much. You get the golf clap, and that was absolutely awesome. Thank you for your energy and all of your amazing work. And just, I was saying to Liz after we chatted with you earlier, it's just like, it's amazing to talk with someone who's been doing this for so long. And, the salon's been around since ChatGPT. And so a lot of us are new to this world, and, you've been at it for a while. So really inspiring.
This was great. And I just love what you're doing here. I'll be visiting again.
Good.
And thank you all so much. So take care until next time.
Great. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you, Liz.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Hello, anybody there? Fireflies, AI, Soul Taker, and Monica.